Hello and welcome to another edition of Soccer Talk with Mumini Alao. My name is Tunde Kweki, your regular anchor, and with me in the studio is Mumini Alao himself, the Group Managing Director of Complete Communications, publishers of Complete Sports, Nigeria's number one and widest selling sports paper. Thank you for joining us as always.
Thank you very much, Tunde. My pleasure.
Yes, I know a lot has been said about the fact that Chelsea are the new champions of the English Premier League, blah, blah, blah. N'Golo Kante is Player of the Year. We know the clubs that have been relegated. But one story that that seems to have escaped a lot of people is the reinvention of Victor Moses, a player who joined Chelsea in the 2012-2013 season, played 23 games, maybe scored one goal. Ever since then, he was a nomad, finding different homes at Stoke City, West Ham United, and even Liverpool. But with the coming of Antonio Conte this season, we have seen a totally different player turn from a winger into a wing back, into arguably probably the best wing back in the world football right now. 33 games in out of Chelsea's 36 matches so far, and 3 goals. Where does the plaudits go for the reemergence of Victor Moses? Is it the player himself for being so adaptable? Is it Antonio Conte for seeing what no other manager saw? Or do they both share it?
Well, today, maybe I should start by telling my own story.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
You were a wing back in your day?
Because I have a similar story.
Interesting.
When we used to play set in secondary school, 7 aside, 9 aside, 5 aside, as the case might be. And then when you win, you are the defending champion.
Of course.
The other side will
winner stays.
There you stay, and then the other side will keep changing, So I went for this, at Anwar Islam College in Agege, which, eventually I got to do my HSC, higher school certificate there. And I didn't know that anybody knew me there. I was just a stranger. I just, my first time around. So when they pick players, they pick sides, nobody picked me. So I said, okay. I just sat to watch.
Typical.
And then just before the set started, apparently the guy who was the leader of one of the sides just said, Bobo, play for Wambe, said.
Just out of the blue.
You this guy, play our right foot back. And here was I usually played in the striking position.
So you're a striker who was asked to play as right full back.
And he just said, Bobo, play for Wambe, that I should just play right full back. And I played right full baback. And within 20 minutes, we already won the first round. We were waiting for the other side, to come again, because as defending champion, we won,
of course, you stay.
And we were waiting for the other side to pick new players. And then I started hearing the other players saying, we didn't know this guy was so good. We didn't know this guy was
if we had known, we'd have picked him, maybe.
Exactly, apparently that guy, the guy who picked me, had seen me play elsewhere before, and I didn't even realize.
Interesting.
Okay? So, and I adapted, even though I wasn't a professional, but I adapted. So, how much more? A player like Victor Moses. Okay? Victor Moses, of course, Nigerians, we know him as a striker. Or
winger,
now,
forward, attacking midfielder.
Forward. Okay, let's just say forward.
Yeah, that encompasses everything.
Exactly. Forward. That, whether it's right full, right wing or left wing or central, it was, we knew him as a forward, but now we know him as a complete player. Okay, because if you now take a closer look at Moses, you will realize that he's always had those characteristics, for him to easily adapt, because he's very, very skillful. And he's very, very strong.
And a great engine too.
Okay, he's very, very strong. Because you need to be very strong to be able to play the modern day wing back. Okay, because you are defending.
And you are attacking.
And you are attacking and you are just going back and forth.
And you must not be lax in either one of those duties.
Absolutely. And of course, we all know that Conte, being an Italian, he knows the characteristics of the traditional defender. He knew what he was looking for. He knew that Moses had the strength, he had the speed, and then the skill again was going to be a bonus. Okay? And don't forget, even Moses, eventually when he was interviewed recently and asked how he was able to adapt so quickly, he said, look, being a forward myself, I know what to expect. When I'm in a defensive position, I know what the guy who is approaching me, I know what he's going to do because I know what I always do in a situation like that.
Does it also help the fact that probably one of the greatest ever wing backs in the history of football, Gianluigi Zambrotta, was a former Juventus player, played alongside Antonio Conte, so probably Conte had an excellent understanding of the role.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's the point I made when I said don't forget that he's an Italian and they know what to look for when they're talking about defensive football.
Yes.
So back to your question now, who should get the credit for Moses' resurgence? Okay, I would say both of them. The coach, who saw the talent, who saw the skill.
That nobody else saw.
You know,
that
at least
that
up to that point.
Mourinho never saw.
Okay.
The coaches at West Ham never saw. Stoke City never saw.
At Liverpool.
And he came there and saw. That was the first time he'd seen him play.
Although you could say also that the fact that Conte wanted to play 3-4-3 was a very huge
a bonus, yes.
factor in him discovering Moses. Because you use the example of Mourinho and the rest of them. They didn't play the formation that Conte is playing today. So they wouldn't have been looking at Moses whether he could fit into that style or not. Okay, but Conte wanted to play that formation. He needed players that could fit into that formation, and he found Moses a willing and able person to execute.
How does this benefit Nigeria going forward? Nigeria for the Super Eagles, of course. You do know we're in the campaign for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, still in the running as well for the 2018 FIFA World Cup.
Well, I think Moses will still be better off as a forward for Nigeria. Okay, because traditionally, I would say that is the area where we've been lacking more rather than defensive positions. If you look at the history of the Super Eagles, okay?
I agree, because Genomo is looking for fullbacks as well.
The current team in particular, anyway, the current team in particular, if you look at our last two games, particularly the last one against Algeria during the World Cup qualifiers, Moses was a star player because he has the ability to hold the ball, run with it, take on players, dribble players, and disorganize the defense of the opposing side. Because when you play against a well-organized defense, you need players who can take on the ball, can break it down, and that's what Moses does for the Super Eagles. So I won't say because he's successful as a wing-back for Chelsea, we should now start thinking of bringing him to play that role for the Super Eagles. Nah.
Okay, very quickly, let's talk about African football now. As it concerns Nigeria, two of Africa's major tournaments are currently one has been concluded, one is currently going on. The CAF Under-20 Cup of Nations was concluded in Zambia, no Nigeria. The CAF Under-17 Cup of Nations is currently going on in Gabon, no Nigeria. Is this a crisis or is just a blip in the road?
No, today is not a crisis. I think it's a blip. Okay, if you look at the history of those two competitions you've mentioned, Nigeria actually has the best record under 20 level
and under 17.
And under 17 level. So I think it's just a blip. Nigeria will be back.
But the fact, a lot of people said that, plenty of hopes for the last team that won the FIFA Under-17 World Cup didn't qualify. We're beaten in the preliminary stage for the Under-20. The new set of the Under-17s as well. Some have said maybe it's a question where we have to reorganize our youth coaching systems as well. Maybe we don't have a proper understanding of it as much as we should have, which has not really translated into success in the senior levels. There's so much talk about it.
No, the issue of lack of transition to the senior level, even when we won, okay? Even when we won, we knew that issue had always been there, and it's because we don't present players with the right ages. Okay? So that doesn't have anything to do with us qualifying or not qualifying for the Under-17 and Under-20 African Championships. Okay? That's a different matter entirely. Okay? This one is just a blip, as I said. And don't forget that the major crisis, it's not a crisis in my opinion, but the major downside of not qualifying is that those players will not easily now transit from under-17 to under-20 and then under-23 like we normally did in the past. Okay,
so there's a disconnect, there's a dislocation in the chain.
And I would have loved the situation where even despite the fact that those teams didn't qualify, the NFF kept them, maybe just engage them, still keep the team going so that, they can
the NFF doesn't have funds. They said they don't have money. So
well. Otherwise, for me, that's just the only downside. But as I said earlier on, we are going to be back at the next tournament for those two.
Okay.
Under-17, under-20.
So no cause for alarm?
I don't think there's any cause for alarm.
Okay, thank you so much. You've heard it from the expert himself, Mumini Alao, saying that this is just a small blip in the road in terms of Nigeria's youth football development systems, and we should be back firing on all cylinders pretty soon. So thank you so much for tuning in, watching this edition of Soccer Talk, and thank you so much, Mumini Alao, for joining us as always.
My pleasure as usual.
Okay, so we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.